You're listening to NT Paranormal After Dark. Nothing normal about it.
Yeah, I find it incredibly strange that people actually like tune in and listen to the show.
I don't know why they would.
Like there's people that are like, oh, hey, they're doing that thing now, and they actually watch us. That seems like an urban legend in itself right there. Hey guys, Ashton here with Sarah Hatfield, and bringing another episode of NT Paranormal After Dark. So the internet trend, or trend, is that a good word for it? I don't know. It's the hashtag trending. It's weird. Hold on. God, don't stop jumping to the end of the show before we have the show. All right, that's our show, guys. Everybody have a good night. That's it. But like for about a week now, my wall has just, and I don't even have kids, and it's just like, tell your kids about Momo, Moo Moo, Mom, or whatever the hell. And it's just, and I saw it like 2 or 3 times, kind of ignored it. And then
self-perpetuating urban legend.
Yeah. But
I have friends who they've actually gotten calls from their kids' schools.
Yeah. That's one of the things I saw, is that they were talking to the kids about it at school, and it is a very serious topic. I mean, if there really was someone jumping, or if there is, we'll obviously discuss it. But. If your kids are watching videos and there's just somebody popping up on it being like, hey, you need to kill yourself or whatever, you should probably talk to your kids about that. Seems bad. Also, kind of if your kid's dumb enough to, because an alien popped up in the middle of their video and told them to do the kill themselves challenge, it's kind of...
Well, there was a challenge going around a couple years back, the Blue Whale Challenge, where it was...
and I hadn't heard it. You were telling me about it.
It didn't start with kill yourself. It was like, I dare you to... It was basically truth or dare. I dare you to do this stupid thing, and it escalated to self-harm, basically. But it's the whole kids challenging each other to do stupid stuff.
Well, okay,
Peer pressure.
In the way that this particular thing is perpetuating itself is really interesting too, because we live in an age of social media, and we've seen new urban legends kind of take root in our time. But this one's really interesting the way it presents itself, because it's like the Momo challenge thing, because that's a thing that has been, I remember the very first one of those I saw, it was the cinnamon challenge, and that was a real thing. That was people doing it, but eventually it crossed this line into this like bogus thing, because millennials are still getting blamed for
snorting condoms and eating Tide Pods. Yes, we're all 30.
Yeah, smoking Tide Pods or eating Tide Pods and all that.
We're 30. This is Gen Z you're talking about.
So, the thing is people think that people were eating Tide Pods, like to the point they're locked up when you go to the store.
That's not a thing, but what was funny about that is we used to get the laundry crystals, and we always called it laundry candy, because it straight up looks like candy. It's brightly colored, it looks delicious. So we always put it up high, like when Andrew was little, because he was fond of eating crap he shouldn't eat. But yeah, when they're like, "Oh, kids are eating Tide Pods," I was like, "Well, I'm not surprised little kids are eating Tide Pods." Oh, it was teenagers. Oh, well, still not surprised.
But it wasn't happening. But
one guy did it for a YouTube video. One dude.
One guy does not perpetuate like a trend, and then they're like, okay, we got to lock up laundry detergent at the store now, and it became this huge PSA thing, and since then more of those things have
our after school specials have gotten steadily dumber since the 80s.
Yeah, like we used to crack eggs in a pan and be like, hey,
on drugs.
Don't do black tar heroin. Okay, that seems reasonable. People were out there doing
don't eat
black tar heroin
or snort condoms.
Now it's like, hey, don't eat laundry detergent, dummy. What is the Blue Whale challenge?
Like I said,
what
it's
is
just
this?
an escalating game of challenges. Like, I dare you to drink 16 sodas. Okay, I dare you to
But isn't that
cut your arm?
That's just truth or dare.
But it would escalate to where they were doing... I don't know if this was actually a thing or if it's like the Momo thing where it's not a thing.
I don't know about that one. The Momo thing, though, and this has gotten really out of hand, like really fast, because they're talking about it at schools. The police issued a PSA
like I said, it's a
on it.
Self-perpetuating urban legend.
Yeah.
Which I think is interesting.
I see it more as like a social study or whatever. But
moral panic, I believe, is the term I found on the internet. It's a moral panic about so many kids being on the internet and their parents not knowing what they're doing. And a lot of parents are like, Vicky said, where their parents don't... they don't think they should be on the internet. Keep the kids off the internet, but I'm of a different class of thought.
Right, and I remember we were watching the video on Z-Dog, and he was talking about
keeping your kids off social media, which I don't agree with.
Right, and I see both sides of it. On the one level, you can say, well, good for him. He's parenting. He is monitoring.
I don't disagree with how he wants to parent. I just, as a parent myself, I don't think that's valid for me.
Well, I think what he was talking about kind of is more crippling than helping, because what he was talking about was on specifically what we're referencing is he was talking about online bullying and how he deals with it. And the thing is he was saying, well, back in our day, we didn't have bullying online. You'd get bullied at school, and you could go home, and it would be a safe place, and you could deal with it and process it. But kids now, they come home.
It's there. It's always there.
It's always there. It's always there. And he is right on that level. That is a factual thing.
I've been through Caitlin's Instagram.
Yeah, that is a factual thing. However, his solution to it is I don't let them have on social media, and at a certain age, maybe, but he doesn't let them on the internet or anything like that, and I don't agree with that tactic. Because
I just think that this is the future.
Yeah, if
you're going to keep your kids totally offline, I think it is going to, in some ways, cripple them. It's helicopter parenting over the internet, and I think helicopter parenting has been sort of damaging for kids. They go off to college, they don't know how to do anything on their own. That's not saying don't watch your kids. It's just...
Yeah, you need to monitor their content, and you need to talk to them about their content, but it's the same argument as violent video games. Mm-hmm. It's the same argument as don't let them watch scary R-rated movies or
music
sex
with bad words.
It's just another form of censorship, and censorship is bad because the thing is we're a technological society, and we're getting more so like... I hate calling my sister out, but she thinks her kid's a genius because he could operate the Xbox at 2 years old. Well, he grew up with it. That is a more normal part.
My kid can kill grown men on first-person shooters. They're better. They pick it up faster when they're little.
Right, and so to say, okay, don't do social media, all you're doing is you're making your kids weird when they get... It's, the old joke about homeschooling. You didn't socialize your kid.
Yeah, they're going to grow up weird, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, so you may be pushing that like you're trying to socialize them in real life, but you're stunting them in something else that the rest of the world is going to be adept in.
But like with everything else, there's this in-between line.
Yeah,
you can't let them free for all, and you can't crack down so hard that they go crazy when they're finally free.
Mina says at her store,
the alarm goes
there's
off,
an alarm for...
Another kid's eating Tide Pods.
They had a thing about it. So that's my nephew, my genius nephew I was just talking about.
Jen says Blue Whale is basically Momo. I mean, I said back our day, it was Candyman. We were just watching a thing about Candyman.
Oh my God, I want to go back and watch Candyman.
Oh God, that thing, I still have issues with that.
Farewell to the flesh.
Do it in front of Allie and watch her panic.
I hate that bathroom at George's Creek. God. It looks like the Candyman bathroom.
I know. Me and you were like flipping coins over who had to go
I
in there.
I had anxiety. Finally, I poked my head in there and I was like, no, I'm good.
There's bees.
But just as a PSA, guys, first off, talk to your kid. It's just a good idea to talk to your kids anyway. But as far as the Momo thing, it's not really a thing, because if you go and look, there's not a single...
It's not a thing.
Well, they're saying it pops up in the middle of YouTube videos, but here's the thing. We post YouTube videos. But nobody can post things into your videos.
This is a thing people have been doing, though, and it started with this thing I found called ElsaGate. Whatever. I read a bunch of conspiracy theory threads on Reddit. But this was real, and it's little kid videos where, like, they have the little kid dressed up as Batman or Superman, and they're playing around. And the first minute or so of it will be totally innocent. It's just little kids playing. And then about a minute into it, an adult will pop in. And some weird crap will go down. And none of it's, like, exactly pornographic or violent, but it is thrown off and weird. The thing is, they're slipping it past the censors, because if I let Andrew watch a video on YouTube, I'm probably only watching the first couple seconds to make sure it's okay.
Well, and part of that helicopter parenting thing you're talking about is we depend on social media, and we depend on YouTube and all that to be censors for us. You know, we're talking about, like, well, how could we don't let your kids on the internet because anything's on there, but you have to, if you want to filter what your kids are watching, you're going to have to do it as the parent.
Manually.
Because, I mean, so a lot of people want to bitch at YouTube about that. But the thing is, dude, you could have an army of people working full time. They can't catch everything. The only way you can fix that is report the video and they pull it down. But like you said,
then it just pops back up.
Another video just pops back up somewhere.
Because I've noticed this when I listen to like audiobooks or something on YouTube, they'll take it down because it's copyrighted, and 2 days later it'll be back up.
If people want to do something like that, they're going to find a way around it. There's no way to make a perfect system. Do you remember when they were putting like the internet nanny on people's computers in at school or whatever, so we couldn't look up porn and things like that?
But let me tell you, your kids know how to crack that.
Oh my God, it takes all of 3 seconds to get past that.
Well, and Vicky says she's talking about parents who just hand their kids phones and iPads and they don't do anything else.
Yeah, and that wasn't like a call out. I was just using your comment as an example.
It's just a conversation I've had with a lot of people. Like, there does have to be an in-between.
Yeah, completely cutting your kids off from technology because you think it's bad is as backwards
as only letting them.
Well, that's just a throwback to every time there's new technology. There's people that are like technophiles, or they're like, oh, I'm not gonna do that, and then you end up getting left behind because you don't want to adapt because you're stubborn. All you're doing is you're stunting the growth of your kids or whatever. And I agree. Technology keep going forward. Yeah, there's some bad aspects to it, but that's just how
like
life
with
is.
Parenting and all life, it can't be just that or just this. It has to be somewhere in the middle.
Right.
People are so hardline one way or the other. I've just never understood that approach.
The irony of that is what the source of the urban legend actually is. So the very thing we're talking about, this urban legend that's kind of spurring this on, the point of the urban legend
scare your kids.
Yeah, it's morality tales.
Yeah, keep your kids from making out on Lover's Lane. They might get shot by Zodiac.
Right. Actually, it's the Hookman. Yeah, that's the thing. And that's a very, very clever urban legend. It's you go out to Lover's Lane and you're making out with your girlfriend or your boyfriend.
And you hear the announcement on the radio, escaped a maniac, blah, 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 and then they drive away and there's the hook stuck in the door.
Well, and they hear like a scratching out, and he goes out to check it out, and there's nobody there.
Some variations, he gets killed and she hears his blood dripping on the top of the car, and then some variations,
and then
they drive away.
You've got the movie Urban Legend, and I Know What You Did Last Summer. It all plays off of that. And and later there's the hook hanging from the door.
The most insane is the Halloween candy one, and we were just watching that thing about that.
Stick to one at a time.
Let's go. Rage.
Yeah, we'll get into that one.
Okay, Hookman. What's the other one that's a car related? Backseat of the car.
Backseat of the car is part of it.
Which I still have to check the backseat of my car.
And then there's also the fake hitchhiker.
Okay, so what's the backseat of the car one supposed to prove? That you're supposed to check the backseat of your car? Because I got the lesson. Okay, so it's real weird how these tales, the cautionary tales relating to the message of it, because it's like this really kind of abstract thing. But the whole hook can't check the backseat of your car, picking up hitchhikers, that all started in the 60s is where that really took root. And what's interesting about it is what was happening in the late 50s, early 60s, it was teenage car culture. Because we'd had cars before that, but they weren't as like regular and in mass production. As easily available.
They were getting cheap enough that the middle class could afford them. So what you had was a bunch of teenagers that had cars, and parents didn't know how to deal with the fact that teenagers were now more independent.
Well, it's the same thing with the internet. You don't know what they're doing when you're not looking at it. It is
an exact correlation to it. So, we're less worried about our teenagers driving around in things like that. We're worried about what they're doing on the internet. Like, oh, our kids could be on the dark web because I don't understand what the dark web is.
Yeah.
And it's a generational gap, and that's where these urban legends come from. And it's actually the last generation perpetuating the urban legend.
The urban legend I tell my kids is, once upon a time there was a kid who gave out his info over the internet and his whole family was slaughtered. The end.
Yeah.
Don't give out your address or phone number.
Well, and the idea, don't let your kids go out and play on their, and there's laws that you can get CPS called on you for letting your kids
play outside by themselves,
wander the neighborhood. But in reality, and it doesn't seem this way looking at it, but in reality, it is safer to do that now than it ever has been in the past. Because our kids have phones. Our kids have the internet. They have ways of contacting us. Our kids are better educated.
The other simple fact is that only 1% of child abduction and murder is by strangers.
Yeah.
Someone's going to hurt your kids. It's probably someone that lives in your house or someone that's related to you.
The idea of strangers committing crimes to you isn't almost an urban legend. It does happen.
It's just very rare.
It is so rare. If you're going to get molested, raped, kidnapped, killed, it's going to be by somebody you know.
Even serial killers are generally killing somebody because of someone in their life. They just fit more of a physical pattern than an actual relationship pattern.
Julie says Goatman at Lake Worth was like Hook Hand. And actually, now that, I didn't even think of Goatman as an urban legend, but
yeah,
it is. We kind of interpret it as like a paranormal phenomenon that needs to be investigated, but it's just another Hook Hand legend. It's taking the car there, turning the lights on and off. You're somewhere at night where you're not supposed to be. And all that was...
my dad always tell me, nothing good ever happens after midnight.
Yeah. And all that teenage car culture stuff, it's a cautionary tale of don't have sex. It's abstinence culture is exactly what it is. It's
really the only cautionary tale they need is to babysit my children.
Just send them to a condom factory. These are all broken. Rise in teen pregnancy is what that had to do with concerning car. Yeah. So that's exactly what I was talking about. It was the Hook Hand in the serial and all that was a cautionary tale against teen sex, basically. But like all urban legends, there's a grain of truth to it. And the other thing that was happening at that time was the Phantom Killer.
Yeah, it was the wave of serial killers in the late 60s, 70s, and early 80s. Was this wave of this new kind of killer they had never profiled before?
Yeah, because they weren't even serial killers yet. We hadn't even classified
the term
this.
Serial killer wasn't even coined until the 80s. Before they didn't understand.
Well, in the FBI wasn't a thing quite yet. It was still in its infancy. It's hard to imagine that the FBI is still it's a relatively new agency. And when you talk about things like CIA, NSA, and all that, these are all relatively new agencies. It used to just be police, and that's one of the reasons that killers like that could get away with things, because they could move state to state, and there was no...
And back then it actually mattered.
Yeah, because there was... And police departments didn't talk to each other or anything like that, but the Town That Dreaded...
The movie is The Town That Dreaded Sundown.
Right.
It's the Texarkana Phantom Killer.
Right, and he actually would
stalk the lovers lane and shoot couples.
Yeah, he'd approach people that were making out in their car, or young teens or whatever, and he didn't have a hook hand, but he was shooting.
He had a gun and a penchant for molestation.
And they never caught him. And then later you have the Zodiac Killer, and a lot of experts think that the Phantom Killer and the Zodiac Killer are one and the same, because it's all kind of sequential. But that's the grain of truth that's in that urban legend. But it still spends. I don't know that anybody's talking about Hook Hand anymore these days. I think there's been too many movies. I
I know from my kid. Like,
I say it tongue in cheek that like our generation after us is too smart to believe that, but they think Momo is a thing.
Well, but I mean, like I've talked to Caitlin, being in junior high now. Like Goat Man's still a thing in Cleburne, but Hook Hand Man is not a thing.
Yeah, hey, like I don't understand that. Like
it's just changed. It's just adapted.
Yeah. Hook Hand at least has some like basis in reality. It's like a person that wants to do, it's the stranger attacking you sort of thing. With Goatman, it's supernatural.
In Cleburne, it does have some basis in reality, but it's one of those self-perpetuating urban legends. Someone said there were Satanists out there sacrificing animals. Mm-hmm. So kids started going out there, kids or creepy adults started going out there and leaving dead animals. So they made their own urban legend. They invented it themselves, and then they perpetuated it.
They're talking about stranger danger here in the comments. Said it's an interesting. Chris said it's an interesting point about the percentage of strangers that abduct and harm kids. Our mom's seen these viral Facebook posts, such about child abduction for sex trafficking
all the time. That is a thing. It's not nearly as common as people think it is.
Yeah, and when we're talking about that, it's not like a kid has never been abducted. It's not like a kid has never been molested or somebody's never bullied somebody into committing suicide. These are very serious things that happen. But
just people are paranoid about the wrong thing.
But if you go on the internet at all, you think this is just happening to like 1 in every 3 children that are left unattended.
It doesn't show good stuff. That's not interesting.
Okay, so here's a funny thing, and I'm going to call you out a little bit. We were having a conversation about your son playing video games on the internet, and I was a little appalled that you said, "Oh, well, we wouldn't give him a mic. We don't let him talk to people online."
No, that was Steven's rule. That wasn't my rule.
That's so weird. That's so weird because this is. I know he has one now, and that's fine. And you parent how you want to parent. It's not bad.
I think Steven was more concerned about Andrew trash talking adults on the internet.
Maybe that had. It was weird. It was weird the way you said it, and it sounded like y'all were trying to keep him from talking to possible pedophiles on the internet. But anybody you talk to in a video game.
I just don't think there's any way to stop that.
And you're not even protecting them from the language either.
My basis for stopping that is educating my kids.
Yeah. Well, when I was a kid, I watched R-rated scary movies. I remember the conversation you had, or a conversation you were telling me about, where you were talking about violence
versus
sex in shows. I can't remember how that. So what was your point in that conversation? I can't remember now.
My point was, I was talking to my mom about it, and she had mentioned that she was way more willing to let me watch a violent horror movie than she was a movie with even a mild sex scene. And I asked her why, because this is completely illogical. Your kid is almost 100% chance likely to experience sex at some point in their life.
Right, correct.
Violence, on the other hand, your kids are more likely to see sex than they are a zombie apocalypse where people's brains are getting bashed in, or people getting shot up. Why is sex so much more reprehensible when this is a thing that happens and you expect to happen?
Well,
when violence is something you want to avoid.
Yeah, and the thing is violence in video games and on TV and things like that, there's absolutely no. They've done tons of studies. And every year it comes out with the next violent video game that, it's going to make your kid violent. But there is no correlation between the two.
But I can't dog on parents for that, because Caitlin has asked to watch shows and I'm like, no. And she'll ask why, and I'll be like, sex content. And she's like, but why? I'm like, right. I don't know. It throws me, but it skeeves me out.
It's that gut check. Like the other day, I can't remember what we were talking about, but I was like, sometimes something just sounds wrong to me, and I just go with it. And, I think X is too far. And you have to make a decision like that sometimes, I guess. But logically, your kids are going to be exposed to sex at some point. Your kids are going to be exposed to violence and media at some point. But that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to emulate it. Especially if you can have a mature conversation with your children like they're people, which we tend not to think of our kids as people at a certain point.
Well, at a certain point, they're kind of not people.
I know, but and we get dragged a little bit. I don't know if you've seen this side of it, but as far as us being paranormal investigators and doing our paranormal investigation show, we get dragged a little bit about Well, a lot of kids come to the conventions, and we talk to them, and kids could be watching the show, and you guys cuss and stuff like that, which we have toned down our language a little bit. But I still don't like the idea of censorship.
Not saying anything I wouldn't say in front of my own kids, but probably don't use my parenting as your bar.
Maybe, but
Julie says I could explain violence easier than I could sex. Which, yeah, I can get. It's hard to explain sex to a little kid.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, I get that, but that is not dealing with your own ability to be comfortable with the conversation. That it's a social stigma that you're avoiding when you do that, and that's funny because I'm calling out my own mom, which I never had any that aspect of my growing up. I never had any problems with that. If there was like a sex thing or whatever. Oh my God! This is some random. Who wants
to watch a sex scene with their parents anyway?
Oh, it's horrible.
I know.
By
it's
the
awkward.
way, it's the worst. But I remember like being 8 years old watching Revenge of the Nerds, and there's a line in there where like they walk in, they're like, "Are we dreaming?" And Booger's like, "No, if we were dreaming, I'd have a boner." And I didn't know what boners were, and I'm like, "What's a boner?" And my mom like explained it, but she just did it real matter-of-factly, and I was like, "Oh, okay."
Dude,
and went on about my day.
I watched that movie uncut for the first time after I was grown. I did not know like the whole first minute of that was like 70s style pubic hair.
I haven't seen it in a long time either. That and Police Academy are pretty bad.
Chris talking about being lax about nudity but not sex. Yeah, that's the other thing about sex in movies is that it's not the way it actually works. So it's even harder to explain. Oh, that's a sex scene, but that's not the way any of this is going to go for you.
Right? Yeah. Like, why isn't she mad that he's like pulling her hair? It's like. How does that line up? That makes no sense at all. Yeah.
I'm going to put this on the list of things I hope my kids Google once they're 18 and don't ever ask me about.
Well, luckily I went to a school that had sex education or whatever because my parents were no help.
Oh my God, Caitlin's school just did sex ed. She came home and she was like, they just talked about not having sex. I was like, yep, that's the exact kind of sex ed you're going to get in Cleveland. They're right. Don't do it. It's bad.
But yeah, that's what Hook Hand is all about. Is it's a more creative way of abstinence coaching, and parents not being able to deal with the fact that their teenagers were becoming more independent. Like, because it wasn't, teenagers have always been more independent, rebellious or whatever, but back before cars, they could only walk so far, and you'd go and child abuse was legal then, so you'd whip their ass. Cars happened, they could get a little bit further. They could maybe even get so far from you don't know where they fucking went, and so we start telling these like horrific, grotesque tales, and then some of them come true.
It's weird how often you tell the story and then it comes true. It's very seldom the thing happens and then the story.
And that's what they say is life mimics art is the thing. And so it's kind of a chicken or the egg thing. Is like, well, what came on some of the older ones, right? What came first, the urban legend or the actual
one time that actually happened,
or the thing that inspired it?
Yeah. And
actually, I think if I look at any of the newer ones, a lot of time the urban legend comes first. Mm-hmm. I think a good example of that, and you know more about that one than I do, but it's the Slender Man thing.
Yeah.
And that hit hard. I think that's one of the biggest thing, one of the first big ones for our generation.
Yeah, because I'm a big creepypasta reader. And I remember when this dropped back when creepypasta was like a site instead of Reddit and just random internet spaces. And what they did along with writing this story is they seeded the internet with quote unquote historical documents. They drew up etchings from early Germanic period. They did all this stuff, like this crazy stuff. They seeded the internet with these historical facts, so much so
that they had to start years before they even did the creepypasta. It was a complete plan.
Whoever did this was intense. And the creepypasta popped up, and it wasn't even a very long story. It was just, tall guy, long arms, no face, abducts
We're not
kids.
ignoring your comments, guys. We'll come back and hit some of y'all's conversations like as we can.
But the thing is a few years ago there was an attempted murder because of Slender Man. Yeah, it was A 12-year-old girl and her friend had been really into creepypastas, and of course I stumbled onto this when I was a lot older because it wasn't a thing.
So what is the actual Slender Man story? What's the content of the story?
It's just a tall guy, tall skinny dude, no face, wears a suit, has long arms. He abducts kids.
He just shows up, takes kids.
It's another one of those. Don't go off on your own.
Okay, it's just a morality tale. But this one was presented as fiction.
This one was presented as historical fiction as opposed to modern fiction.
Okay, so hold on. I'm just trying to make sure I follow right. So they went first. They seeded the internet.
I don't know which happened first, the seeding or the story. I think they popped up around about the same time.
Right, and then they wrote the Slender Man story, but said, okay, this is fiction, but it's kind of based on this
historical
this
story.
Factual thing, which was also fiction.
Yes, this historical
genius. Okay, it just makes it more believable.
Like it was a historical urban legend.
Right.
Before Hookman, before all this is an ancient story, and because it's older, people are more inherently believing that it's true.
Well, it's nuts because when me and Allie were talking about Chupacabra last week, we thought it was this really old, like, I thought it went back to, like, ancient Mayan civilization or something like that, and it turns out that was, like, an urban legend. It started in like 1995, but somehow it was stuck in our heads as something that was even older. So these guys took the next step and seeded all this stuff so that you really would think it was even older. What are you looking at?
Oh, people are commenting about their kids being into Slender Man. But it's another one of these cases of this moral panic where kids are on the internet seeing things they shouldn't be seeing.
Right.
Well, one girl in Wisconsin, she wanted to appease Slender Man, so she stabbed her friend a bunch of times. Now, her friend lived, I believe, near fatal, yeah. They did a documentary about this that might be on HBO right now, but she thought that this was a real thing, and she wanted to sacrifice her friend to him, which then, of course, got everybody riled up about creepypastas, which bothered me because I like them.
Yeah, you're so hipster. You're like, man, now everybody like just. But see, here's the thing.
Well, no, it was people were like wanting to take them down, which I didn't want to happen. Like,
I get what you're saying.
Not that they could. They're so disseminated on the internet. There's no way to get rid of it. But,
yeah, because Reddit's a thing.
Yeah,
it's never going away.
But yeah, it's just this idea that they were able to go into the internet and present something like it has a history when it was invented in like 2005.
Right. That is a true danger of the internet, is not being able to discern fact from fiction to the point that you could look up the history on, they're referencing a fake history that is so cleverly seeded that if you don't know any better, you don't know. And that's a real thing. And our current president is totally writing the urban legend sort of thing of fake news. You can't trust the news. We live in this Orwellian sort of world where it's like, well, you can't trust this news story, you can't trust that news story. It's all fake. And the reason he gets away with that claim is because, lo and behold, there is fake news out there. That's the problem. There are conspiracies, there are stories out there that aren't true. And so it makes you question the things that should easily be fact. Look at anti-vaxxing, things like that. Here's the deal. You should always question how you're taking care of your kids and things like that. That's not the bad part of that story. The bad part is there's plenty of empirical scientific evidence to show that MMR does not cause autism, that vaccines are beneficial to humanity, that disease has gone, but there are, the way things are worded and the way these news stories are kind of seeded on the internet, you can't tell what's fact and what's not fact. At some point you have to trust somebody else on the internet to tell you what is fact and what isn't fact, unless you are actually trained in that set of knowledge.
Apparently there's more cases of near murder involving Slender Man.
Please enlighten us, and then we'll have to go back because some of these comments are brilliant.
After hearing the story, an unidentified woman in Cincinnati, Ohio, told a WLWT TV reporter in June 2014 that her 13-year-old daughter had attacked her with a knife and had written macabre fiction involving Slender Man. On September 4, 2014, a 14-year-old girl in Port Ricky, Florida, allegedly set her family's house on fire while her mother and 9-year-old brother were inside. The teenager had been reading online stories about Slender Man and Soul Eater. Soul Eater is not that violent. I like Soul Eater. What the hell?
I haven't. You're speaking a completely different language.
It's an anime where like there's weapons and they like. Never mind. During an early 2015 epidemic of suicide attempts by young people ages 12 to 24 on the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation, Slender Man was cited as an influence. They believe. It's noted that many Native Americans traditionally believe in a suicide spirit similar to Slender Man. Similar,
but not. Yeah. It maybe that's the original writer Slender Man. Got some of his inspiration for the.
Well, they call it creature. Folklore because there's not just one Slender Man story. There was a first one, but now there's 50 million of them.
Right, because it self-perpetuates. Yeah. It just keeps going and going, and there's no stopping it. Like
it's not like people are copywriting their creepypastas. You can write on anyone else's.
Yeah, so I mean, this is never going. There's a movie now. Mm-hmm. Now there's a movie about Slender Man. So this is ingrained in our culture, just like Bloody Mary, Hook Hand, or anything else like that. It's so interesting because it's different than just like the scary movie that comes out or the scary story. This is and that's what I like about creepypastas, because of the way they present their stories, because it uses the friend of a friend format. Mm-hmm. And that's what really perpetuates the core of what an urban legend is, because it's always somebody, it's perpetuated, it's posed in a way to be, because it's more believable this way. It's always a friend or a friend of a friend. So it's personal. It's somebody close.
The acronym they use on a lot of boards is SWIM, someone who isn't me.
Yeah, but it's somebody close, so you can believe it, but it's removed from the teller so that they can
another thing they do on No Sleep, which is basically a creepypasta like forum that I like. You've listened to the No Sleep podcast.
And I think that's exactly what I'm thinking of is the No Sleep.
In the responses, you can't act like it's not true. You have to respond as if it's factual. It doesn't matter how wild the story is; they'll boot you off the forum.
Right, and I think the point of that board is to perpetuate urban legends. What's the one that you like? That's the search and rescue.
The SAR stories.
Yeah, and you were telling me about that, and I really like because some of it is based in fact. If you go out into the woods, you're gonna find staircases that lead to nowhere. And when you told me that, I was like, "What are you talking about?" And it's so.
It's generally
elaborate on that.
It's generally from houses that have been out there and they've burned down, and what's left is the structure of the stairs. So you'll find
because it's the most sturdy.
Chimneys are another one you find really often. But in the SAR stories, it's the search and rescue officer, and he finds out these stairs are doing things. Like if you go up the stairs, you disappear.
And I love the beginning of that story. Is like, my first out there, I saw the stairs. I brought it up, and they said, "No, we don't talk about that." And I was like, "Oh my god, that's cool. Let's go back and revisit some of these comments." So
yeah, but read the search and rescue stories on.
Those are really. Aren't those a part of Channel Zero now?
Dude, they did a season called Butcher. So Channel Zero is a sci-fi show that's based on creepypastas. The first season was a 2-sentence story about Candle Cove.
Yeah, I like that.
The second one was No End House, which I hated the creepypasta of. And the third one was called Butcher's Block, which is partially based on the SAR stories.
Okay. What's the new season? There's a new season coming out. I don't know. I was so happy when we found that. Channel Zero is really cool.
Because I was like, oh my god, it's like my favorite thing, but a show, but sci-fi is doing it.
I thought it was good. I don't think it's
sci-fi
bad.
is so often trash.
Chris says, like, I'm pretty say that word.
We already said that lackadaisical about
nudity. Okay, we don't say anything that she doesn't already say to her kids. Well, that's.
I wish the schools would do legit science and anatomy-based comprehensive sex ed. Good luck.
See, my school did. I mean, I'm Fort Worth ISD, but there wasn't anything they said in our sex ed class that wasn't,
That next comment is horrifying as a parent.
What Jen says?
I neglected to tell my kid what masturbation was, and he asked and severely regretted. Oh, God. I can't imagine getting that phone call.
He asked his female coach, since I wouldn't tell him with younger kids in the car, I got a call from the school. Well, Jesus Christ, if they can't ask their teacher, who are they supposed to? I'm awkward explaining things anyway. And
dude, I just did it so bluntly with Caitlin. She was like 10, came and asking a bunch of questions. I was like, well, here's all the facts. Good night.
Here's a pamphlet. But I think that is actually the best way, because she's really well adjusted about that sort of thing, because she's got that kid that's like trying to get nudes from her all the time, and she's like showing you like
she
you
comes
don't
down
have
and
to worry.
She shows me these texts from this kid, and I'm like, but she's trolling him. She's not just like knock it off. She's like sending him a picture of her cat.
And so that's the thing we were talking about with like, oh, I shelter my kids from Facebook. No, teach your kid to troll.
Yeah, because what Caitlin did is she collected all the times this boy has asked little girls at her school for nudes. She took all the screenshots, she made a panorama and posted it on Instagram, which promptly got the boy a bunch of days of ISS because he'd asked like 50 little girls.
Yeah, because that dude is a perv.
And she had
I've seen some of his texts.
She had tried reporting it, and they were like, oh, blah, blah, blah. But she actually got the evidence, and she publicly shamed him, which I don't know, but probably don't ask my daughter for pictures of her. She's 13. Don't.
The Marble Hornets videos on Slender Man, I don't know what she's talking about.
They're talking about all the mythos that has now accrued behind Slender Man.
Now trying to go back and watch them. Special effects were awful. Yeah, things don't age well sometimes. Multi-middle kid has Slender Man birthday and dressed as. That's cool.
I don't remember if that.
As long as your kids aren't stabbing other kids over Slender Man, I think it's cool.
Yeah, I know one girl was sent to prison or jail, but I think they argued that she was mentally not able to understand what she did.
Rachel's in the UK. She says schools here in the UK have sent warnings out to parents here, and local school in Lancashire, UK, has a number of children affected by this Momo character between 5 and 8 years old. So, like, it's not just the US, too. But
the internet's global, man.
I know. I think it's weird that they're saying there's like 5 to 8 year olds. But the thing is like when you dig into is who is really being affected. Like, it's always this like really broad, which is the core of, an urban legend. This really caught my eye because it's like, I was like, hey, like within the very first like 2 or 3 posts, because I recognize that sculpture that they're using in the picture, because that thing, it's not old, but I've seen it before.
It's creepy as shit.
Oh yeah, it's cool as hell, and it's that Japanese sculptor.
He threw it away, I heard, because of all the stuff that was going on.
Yeah,
which is sad for that artist.
Yeah, he feels really horrible because he's like, I feel like this is my fault somehow, and I'm like, dude, you just made a creepy sculpture.
Do you know trolls on the internet will ruin anything if you let them?
Yeah.
I know because I add myself to a lot of these boards. 4chan and incel boards and conspiracy sites because I have to know what these people are doing. I have to.
And I like trying to imagine what's going on from their perspective.
I tried to join the Proud Boys a few months ago, but you have to actually prove you're a dude.
Oh.
I was going to do, my journalism thing.
But, like, and I saw it as soon as it was happening. I'm like, oh, I'm witnessing this urban legend get, like, spread around. Like, it's...
I'm witnessing the formation of a new urban legend.
Yeah, I'm curious how far it's going to spread, because I mean our viewership is like 1,000 people.
Eventually, someone will get murdered because of it, and it'll spread a lot faster.
Right, and then it'll be like, oh, this is actually a thing, and it's not. There's no one can point to any single video that's got it in there. No one can point to any kids that can confirm that this is actually a thing. I think 1 or 2 kids are like, oh yeah, I saw the thing, but
which wouldn't surprise me if someone was out there making these videos or inserting this stuff into their YouTube videos. That would not surprise me.
But the video would be there, and you'd be able to point to it. But the way they're presenting this is like somebody is hacking.
It's the friend of a friend.
Well, somebody's hacking into videos that are already on the internet and inserting their thing, and then it's not there when you go back to, which isn't. It's not possible. It's not a thing.
I would think it'd be more likely to be something that would be disseminated on Snapchat.
Yeah, something like that.
Jennifer McCartney, my neighbor at one time, she started that whole thing about vaccinations. Her and Andrew Wakefield, the evil doctor, the discredited evil doctor.
Yeah, and that's what's weird. Like, that is a ploy to sell. Like, that pisses me off because that is causing some devastating thing. I mean, I don't want to turn the show into that because we have Strictly Sickly for that platform, but that's something that's just so stupid. And
but it's also at heart a science versus paranormal argument.
Yeah,
it's a science versus hoodoo argument. It's what it is.
But the
hoodoo is versus believe what you want.
But what bothers me about it is, unlike the urban legend, there are very serious points to it that are directly contradicted by fact. Like, where you can look at it.
This is an interesting phenomenon I've noticed.
You can't discern fact anymore.
No, is that people are laboring under different sets of facts. We may fully believe what we believe and understand it to be fact. I believe science, right? There's people on the other side of this argument that think that I'm believing myth and they're believing fact. Now, I fully believe my fact's correct because I pulled it from the CDC. Whatever. But they also fully believe their facts are correct. And that's why you can't argue it, because you want to argue fact versus fiction when you're really arguing fact versus fact.
Fact versus fake fact.
But I know facts don't work that way. And it was a real, like you talk about one of those gut punches when I figured this out, that people are laboring under different sets of facts, but they are.
Alternative facts?
Basically.
Oh my holy God. I can't stand the
Chris
anymore.
Just said it too. Alternative facts.
Sex education, Fort Worth ISD. Never learned what a clitoris was. Yeah, I didn't get any education in that. I had to learn that one.
They never talked about orgasms or anything involving pleasure aspects. I mean, because they don't want you to have
sex.
Well,
we did, but the thing is we had like a 20-something teach in our class from the college. Like, I think it was like somebody that was going to be a teacher or whatever did our sex ed.
Who did most of our sex ed? A local preacher.
Okay. Amelia says 2 girls killed their friend, sacrificed. Slender Man, yes, that did happen.
They didn't kill her. She lived.
Boom, fact check.
Oh, but she was stabbed multiple times.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what shape she lived in, but
Amelia wants to know the story a moment. We'll probably touch on it again here in a minute. Basically, what it is there's these. It's just, what were you calling it? Elsagate. It's basically Elsagate. Yeah. So you're spliced into kids' videos. There's this Momo character,
this creepy sculpture that's telling kids challenging them to do detrimental things, hurt yourself, kill yourself, eat Tide Pods.
And it's got so much to the point that there's been PSAs about it.
Schools are calling kids' parents. This hasn't happened to me yet, but I know people who this has happened to.
Oh, you live in Cleburne. It's about to happen. Like,
I'm going to tell them you're full of shit.
Give it 10 minutes. But the thing is it's not a thing that's actually happening. And that, in me saying that's just a factual thing. I'm not railing like, oh, don't warn your kids about this. Whatever.
You should
tell your kid.
Warn your kids not to do anything
stupid
anyone says on the internet.
Yeah, it's like,
they're all evil and want to hurt you.
Well, I love so there's the urban legend of the man that drives around giving out candy to kids out of the van. Or, hey, I have a puppy. Here's the thing. Has a person actually done this in the past?
Well, yes. I have that story.
Yeah, that's why I brought it up. I thought it'd be fine. But so how many cases? But we were talking about, if you're going to get kidnapped, molested,
it's someone you
killed,
know.
It's someone you know. It's not a guy driving around in a van giving out candy. It's not a guy saying, hey, I got puppies at the house.
We've had 2 incidents like that, actually. A neighbor trying to give Caitlin candy and a neighbor inviting her in to see puppies. Both times it was perfectly innocuous events.
Yeah. So what happened with
the first time was she was up the road with her friend Hayden, and this neighbor came out and said they had puppies. They were only a few houses down. Her little friend went in the house. Caitlin ran home and gave me the address. We go over there and come to find out that this is a family friend of the other kid. The second time was I'd helped a neighbor who had fallen in front of our apartment, and he knew I had kids. And Caitlin comes in, she's like, there's this old guy on the porch, and he's offering me candy. What do I do?
Bring me some candy.
I was like, well, let's go see. I was like, okay, this is someone I know, but thank you for coming. It's empty.
Oh, you whore.
But thank you for coming in and telling me, because but it's also an awkward conversation of how do I tell my kids the most likely person to hurt them is the person they love.
Is me or your dad?
Yeah. Is which with my kids is I just said no one's allowed to do this to you. Literally, if the people in your house do this to you, you call the cops.
I like the story you were telling about going to dinner with some family members are like,
and he was railing on trans people in the bathroom, and he was like, I'm going to stand outside the bathroom while my daughter goes in because I don't want any trans people going in the bathroom. I was like, you're more likely to rape her in the bathroom than anyone else. And he was like, and he was like, okay, you might be right.
Chris says it's kind of good because it's a wake-up call to parents that just turn their kids loose on YouTube without talking to them about content they might encounter or monitoring their usage. And you're right. But that's precisely what we're talking about. That is the point of the. So as ridiculous as this urban legend kind of is,
they all do serve a point.
Yeah, the person. I would love to talk to I would always love to get to the source. Like somehow, it'll never happen. But there is someone
who started this
somewhere
story,
who found the picture of that sculpture, thought it up, and said, "Okay, this is what I'm going to say." There's a first post somewhere. There's a first time somebody said it, but. Whether they meant to I would love to question that person because
if they did it on purpose. Like, we want to make kids, we want to make parents aware of what their kids are doing on the internet.
And this is how I'm going to do it because it's the most ingenious way to do it because nobody's going to listen to you. Just like we can sit here and harp on people and tell them the right thing to do, but they're not going to listen to it. But if you insert something into our culture that's actually harming your children. Or you think is actually harming suddenly you become more proactive, you become more protective because you're appealing to their instincts.
Thinking back to the hook hand thing, leading back to that, there is some basis in reality for scaring people.
Yeah,
don't go investigate the scary noise. Probably don't go somewhere totally secluded by yourself at night.
It's funny. Sounds exactly like what we do.
Yes, yeah. I know. And I've told my kids a billion times when they watch our videos, this is exactly what boneheads and horror movies do. Don't do it.
I love the time that we were doing something and there's like a noise and you're like, let's go. And then we both like stop.
And we're like, no.
Wait a minute.
We're that asshole.
No, this seems like a bad idea.
That happened one time. Me and Steven were in the upstairs room when we lived up there before we had kids, and we were watching the remake of Amityville, and we hear this noise on the roof, and so we're like, "No, look, fucking ignore it. Let's pretend like it's not happening." And around about that time, we hear something slide across the roof, and then we hear a noise. Turns out it's Jonathan trying to scare us, but we thought he had fallen off the roof. I was like, you could have fallen off that roof. You would have been out there screaming with a broken leg, and we would have ignored you because we thought you were a serial killer. That's how you die.
So here's a huge one that every parent is familiar with, and that's going to be the Halloween sadist urban legend that you tried to jump the gun on.
Is putting drugs or razors or poison in your candy. No one, unless it's your kids, then you're doing it.
Yeah, there is. And for years, I mean, we were just watching. By the way, if you guys like documentaries and you like this subject, you should check out the show on Netflix, Killer Legends. And it also talks about Cropsy, which we'll get into, because Cropsy is an awesome one.
I remember, the first couple years my kids went trick-or-treating, I went through every little bit of candy they had.
When I was a kid, my parents went through all of our candy. And it's a habit. You're not going to be able to, because it's still in the back of your head, because it's something that could happen. It's so based in the idea of reality.
In my case, it has some basis in reality, because Caitlin had a peanut allergy. So I got through the habit of going through everything. And another thing you do need to check for, like if you get a pill bottle or anything, you need to make sure it is sealed, because someone a few decades ago was poisoning, I believe it was acetaminophen, and a bunch of people died.
Oh, that's why there's the no tamper. Yeah, that's what led to the no tamper seal.
And that is something that I'm not arguing against doing. You need to check that it is sealed.
And it's so weird, because it's one of those things that happen one time. One guy, one time. It causes this whole thing.
Is this kid and his little sister and the neighbors had been trick or treating. They get home. The parents let the kids pick one piece of candy.
Well, the urban legend was in place before this happened.
But the dad gave the kid a pixie stick, and turns out the dad had laced it with cyanide. And like Chris said, it was the parent. It's always the parent.
It's like, he was trying to collect insurance money on the kid.
Emilio,
the guy's name was Ronald Clark O'Brien.
Emilio, I don't think you have kids yet, but you do go through the candy and you take 10%. It's called the parent tax.
Yeah.
I take all the Reese's and all the Milky Ways.
And if they trick or treat in my neighborhood, I skim an extra 5% off the top of that. It's the neighborhood land tax.
Yes, it's the richer, the better candy giving neighborhood tax.
Right. The only way to get around that tax is if they point to the kid that's not a squeaker and they just let me beat him up and take all his candy. If the kid's a narc, then he can get away with me not taking all his Reese's Pieces.
Oh my God. But the other thing that's been going out in recent years is that people are putting edibles in there.
But that's not a thing. That's not happening either.
The meme I saw is who's giving away their edibles?
Yeah, and that's such a stupid thing. It's like, oh man, if they could...
laced with ecstasy. Do you know how much that stuff costs?
Yeah, that's the exact thing. Is like no one is doing it. But if you go back through the records, there is zero people that this case has happened to where, except for this one guy, Ronald Clark, and then he pointed the finger at the guy. Oh, this house and blah, blah, but it had an airtight alibi because it was cyanide in pixie sticks, right?
Yeah, it was one of those big, I think it was one of those the giant pixie sticks.
Yeah.
The ones that end up with powdered sugar all on your carpet.
And it's so weird. I don't know what his reasoning was because he took out insurance policies on just his kids out of his whole family, murdered the kids, and it took him like all of 3 days to go, oh, we know what happened.
But I don't know. And like they postulated on this documentary we were watching, it was probably kids who disseminate most of this. They're like, oh, I'm going to get some attention.
Right, yeah, kids that want attention.
Shove a push pin in my candy bar.
And then go show it to
my
mom.
Parents.
Yeah.
I mean, it's trick or treat.
And this is another thing. This is another example of people don't copycat so easy. We think that if people play violent video games or if they watch violent movies, they're going to get violent. This urban legend's been around for everybody. Everybody and their mom can be influenced by this, but there have been zero cases before and since this.
And since the invention of Facebook, I see it every year.
Check
all your... Someone in this town that no one's ever heard of was poisoned with Halloween. No, it didn't happen.
I saw a post yesterday about... you remember the game Silent Hill in the movie Silent Hill? The real town. There's a real town.
Yeah, it's the one where the smoke... Centralia.
Yeah, so I was... I saw one of those posts. It was like, oh yeah, it's like the gate, and I was sitting there thinking, I was like, man, it'd be really cool. That'd be a cool place for us to go and just look.
Except the giant coal fire under the town that's gonna.
So here's the thing: it doesn't do any of that anyway. There's like I was reading through the comments like you do. Person's like, hey, I live like a mile from this town. We just walk up there all the time. The only thing that's there is this highway that everybody like spray paints because it's abandoned.
Burned out?
Yeah, there's just nothing there. And they said you can only see some of that smoke on like sub-zero days. There's parts of the ground that are warm or whatever. They said all the buildings are gone except for this one church. It's like up here.
It'd still be cool to go out there.
Well, here's the problem is everybody goes out there because of all those posts and stuff that it's guarded now. You can't go up there because some asshole had to ruin it for everybody. Everybody goes up there and vandalizes it. Because we can't have nice cool, haunted things. Yeah.
The only people who are doing that are the ones who are higher than a kite and don't realize what they're giving. Yeah. I accidentally gave all my edibles away. Whoops.
Oh, the people that were like, oh, well, if you make it to where...
the good news
you can have drug gummy bears and stuff like that.
The good news about marijuana is it's not going to kill your kid.
It might make them cooler.
Yeah.
If anything. But yeah, nobody's given that. That's expensive. That is an expensive thing to do.
The comments thing is pretty fun.
Okay, we'll go through the comments.
People accidentally eating their own edibles in the munchie phase.
How far back up are you?
I'm at the bottom.
Read some of these out.
They're just talking about like stoners trick-or-treating because they have the munchies.
Oh, God, I trick-or-treated till I was like 17 years old, and I always got that, aren't you a little old to be trick-or-treating?
For free candy?
I'm like, aren't you a little old to be so fucking mouthy?
Caitlin already thinks it's uncool. She's like, I don't know, I'll take Andrew around.
I never thought it was like, uncool. I didn't care.
It's funny. She's like, I'll take Andrew around, and since I'm going to take him, I'll take a bag. Like, okay.
Oh, you're really hiding it. Yeah. But yeah, this Ronald Clark O'Brien guy was a real douche nozzle. It was bad. Okay, so you actually looked up the origin, the details of Momo. How did this start? Do we know how it started? Jesus, spread Argentina, Brazil, Canada, Colombia, Europe. Here, I'll actually read that because I pulled up a fact sheet on it. The Momo Challenge is a hoax and urban legend about the non-existent. Even in the first sentence of this, it tells you about the non-existent social media challenge that was spread on Facebook and other media outlets. It was reported that children and adolescents were being enticed by a user named Momo to perform a series of dangerous tasks, including violent attacks and suicide. Despite claims that the phenomenon has reached worldwide proportions, in July 2018, the number of actual complaints was relatively small, and no law enforcement agency has confirmed that anyone was harmed as a direct result of it. Awareness of the alleged challenge rose in February 2019 after the police service of Northern Ireland posted a public warning on Facebook, and American media personality Kim Kardashian posted on her Instagram story pleading that YouTube
is that who we're following now?
Alleged Momo videos. So Kim Kardashian is your new Jenny McCarthy on YouTube clips is what that is. Momo Challenge gained its public attention in 2018 when it was noticed by a YouTuber, Rainbot, targeting teenagers, people presenting themselves as Momo on WhatsApp message to try to convince people to contact them through their cell phone. As with other internet challenges such as Blue Whale, players are then instructed to perform a succession of tasks, refusal to do so being met with their... Oh, yeah, that's the thing. So that supposedly... Remember, we're talking about something than this, but supposedly the way this thing operates, it comes up, it issues you a challenge, like attack your friend or whatever. If you don't, we'll kill your parents. So it's the idea is that it's a kind of like
a chain
blackmail.
Letter.
It's exactly.
It's
what
a viral video chain letter.
It's a new for the new generation because everything's video and streaming.
Sometimes where they'll comment, reply to this or repost it 10 times, or this girl will crawl from under your bed and cut your face off.
Or the lucky penny cat or whatever is like you'll get. If you don't forward this, then you'll be poor.
If you forward this baby will die. If you don't forward this baby will die of cancer. It's all the same thing.
Although authorities have not confirmed any physical harm directly caused by this challenge, police forces and school administration on several continents have issued warnings about Momo Challenge. So the funny thing is like, I get what they're doing. And a lot of these agencies probably know it's not a real thing. But it's one of those better safe than sorry sort of deals because anybody could capitalize. The minute you just lay it down, you're like, it's just an urban legend. It's not worth addressing anymore, and you like try to forget it. That's when somebody comes in and the one sicko comes in and tries to capitalize on it, and then all of a sudden society is held liable for the sin of not paying enough attention, sort of thing. But that's the kind of fear tactic that they use to get the sort of thing out there, and it's just weird. It's just sort of form of social larceny that makes it a better, more cohesive story. I would really love to get to the very first person that put this out there. Like it would just be really interesting to see like what was your goal in the first place, you know, or like the very first person that saw Bigfoot or something like that, you know. I don't know. What's your take? Like, what do you think would be the reasoning behind it? Because I don't think there's some social justice warrior that, like, cooked this up. He's like, you know what? Kids are just watching way too much YouTube.
I think it's a video creepypasta. It's just someone telling a scary story that gets blown out of proportion.
Do you think it's the beginning of a viral marketing scheme? It could be.
That's what I was thinking of, like, when you were talking about, I didn't see Blair Witch until later.
Oh, yeah. I heard that viral marketing for that was great.
I didn't see any of the viral marketing for that. I guess I was enough younger than you that I missed that.
So like what you were talking about with the Slender Man seating, they did that with the Blair Witch because they marketed it as if it was
a real legend.
Yeah, that was really one of the first. It was the first big found footage movie.
Of viral marketing.
Yeah, and what they did is they put documentary style books out about the Blair, because I had it. It was really cool, and it talked about the Blair Witch and in whatever woods they were and things like that. And they just kind of low key put it out and didn't say anything about it. And then when the Blair Witch was getting ready to come out, they were marketing it as, hey, we found this footage, we're doing this documentary with it. And then it blew up. People could then go find they're like, well, what the hell is a Blair Witch? I've never heard of this. And you could go back and find the books on it, and it got a lot of us, that millennial MTV sort of generation thing. And dude, we were into it. And then when we saw it in theaters, some of us were like, I don't know, I'm not buying it, but damn, that's cool. It was cool at the time. Like,
nothing overtly scary enough happens in that movie to make it unbelievable.
Well, and you're also watching it through the lens, like you said, you're just enough younger. You're looking at it through the lens of I already knew
it was fake. Yeah.
We didn't. Like, the first time and that's what sold it, is you don't see the monster. You don't overtly see anything like gory or horror movie-esque happen. Like, they did everything right, and the photography in it's bad, on purpose. There's no way those people could act that badly,
but what they did is torture them on set.
Yeah.
They actually starved them, dehydrated them, and
it worked really well.
And then they did the stuff with the hanging stuff, they hung stuff up. They did that while they were asleep in their tents.
And they sold that as fact until the very last minute, because nobody knew 100%. Nobody could say 100%, because the actors. They were all acting unknown. They were acting under different aliases. Nobody knew who these people were, things like that. And until they accepted their MTV Teen Choice Award or whatever it was, no one knew, until all these people that were supposedly dead in the video showed up, and they're like, thank you for our award. This was a great video. And then everybody was
Amelia says it got him. And Chris, said the same thing. I did. The actor, it was unscripted. They were actually screwing with them.
Yeah, and
then they brought up the creepy clown sightings that were going on. Is that 2015?
Oh yeah, I forget.
Which uniquely horrified me.
That's a thing. But here's the thing: that was not happening. They kept saying there's these creepy clowns coming out of the woods, and there's one or two people just being douchebags riding the wave or whatever. But there's not this cabal of evil clowns.
I don't know, but someone dressed as a clown on not Halloween shows up at my door, and I'm shooting them.
I love the one where the dude dressed as a clown's got the fake chainsaw or whatever, and he's hiding in the parking garage, and he waits for people to come out of the elevator. And just you're watching them sprint.
Was it you or Allie that was with me when I took the kids trick or treating that one year, and the person was dressed as It? Old school It, and had a red balloon and was just standing on a porch. They weren't handing out candy. They were just standing there. And my kids don't know what it's from, so they're just like, oh, look, a clown. I'm like,
no.
Nope, we don't go to that house. We go somewhere else. The kids are like, what's wrong, Mom?
That person's my hero. Yeah, but the not knowing, the way it was presented. And now when you find a fine footage movie, no one even tries to market it that way. We're all pretending for the fun of it, but you can't do that sort of.
Blair Witch ruined it for everybody.
Yeah. Luckily, it was a decent enough movie. I
didn't like it, but
I like it okay. Blair Witch
then again, I think I would have liked it more if I had thought it might have been.
And they rebooted Blair Witch at one point too, or they go back. Not Blair Witch 2, but they did the Blair Witch. We went and saw it in the theater.
Oh, that was just a horror movie though.
Yeah.
And it had that scene in it that I wished Allie had seen, because it was.
It was pretty good because they weren't trying to cash
horrifying.
in. They weren't trying to cash in on what had come before, but they were continuing.
They were just making a campy ass horror movie, and I like those.
Yeah, I liked it.
I liked it.
But yeah, things. it's just really weird. So I'm wondering if the Momo thing isn't the seeds of some kind of viral marketing thing that's happening. But if
it was viral marketing, the guy whose statue it was would have to know about it.
He's commented on it, that he's a part of it, because he's like, well, I feel really bad for this. I'm getting rid of the statue, blah, 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 blah.
And if it is viral marketing that could be part and some kid does do something bad, are they liable?
Here's the deal. Okay, so here's the deal. Is Marilyn Manson liable for Columbine?
He wasn't directly telling people to shoot up schools.
I know, but it's the same exact argument. Anybody that does anything bad could say it's...
If they make
Charles
a video,
Manson...
If they make a video, let's say they made a YouTube video, and they made a kids video, and then they cut halfway through and put this Momo thing in, and it told kids to kill themselves. That's a lot. That's a direct incitement to violence.
But there is no video of that.
I said if, didn't I? It's a thought exercise, bro.
I understand that.
If they did, and they cut in the video of this creepy-ass statue, and it was like, oh, go stab your mom.
If they did that,
okay,
yes, then they're liable. Because that is a direct insight to violence. That's like yelling fire in a movie theater.
I don't think Charles Manson did anything except for not admit to knowing about a bunch of murders. Well, one murder. One night of carnage. One night of carnage.
But it essentially is the same argument. Like, okay, so as it exists now, if somebody does that and blames it on there, and there's no direct like video to go to that said do that thing. But I mean, there's plenty of songs that talk about suicide, murder, things like that. There's plenty of TV shows that do that, and if you condemn one, you have to condemn them all. And that's the thing, is you can't condemn people for.
Well, I mean, have you heard Stephen King talk about rage?
No.
I mean, because you've read Rage, right?
No, I haven't.
Okay,
I need to. I asked you about that book the other day.
It's a Bachman book. I have it in the same series of stories that has The Long Walk and like the one where Arnold Schwarzenegger was in it. I forget.
The Running Man.
The Running Man. But it's about this kid that's obviously he's very that stupid book where he says the GD word a lot, so they banned it. They're all phonies.
You're a big fat phony.
But what's the book? Catcher in the Rye. It's a very It's a very Holden Caulfield style, maladjusted youth.
Stephen King's attempt at Kite Runner.
That shoots. He goes to shoot up his school. I think he only ends up shooting a teacher, but he like holds the class hostage for a really long time, and eventually the cops show up. But they had disseminated the story that they found that book in the lockers at Columbine. With Dylan and Eric, when they went through all their stuff, that they had found this info.
But that doesn't make Stephen King culpable.
But he has actually said that, if he'd known the rash of school shootings that was going to pop up, he doesn't think he would have written it.
Well, right, but everybody can go back and play that game. There's a lot of stuff I would never have said that... If I knew what it was going to lead to.
It's interesting that they want to blame a book when there's a book for everything.
There's a book for everything. There's a movie for everything. There's a song for everything. But you can't blame your actions on the actions of another person. It's, it goes back to, they do the psychological studies of people that became sociopaths, serial killers. The word I'm looking for is psychopath, right? And
the actual term would be antisocial personality disorder.
No, actually, psychopath is exactly what I'm looking for.
But that's not a clinical term.
It is.
They took it out of the DNA.
Okay, well, then the documentary I just recently watched is like maybe a few months older than your up-to-dateness. But what they found is like, a lot of these people were dealt a bad hand growing up. Like their parents abused them.
They're almost all abused.
Right, but there are also a lot of people that grow up under those same exact conditions and don't grow up to become murderers or act out on that.
The interesting thing about that is if they do brain scans on these people and they ask them this series of questions, it can almost always diagnose people that are eventually going to go on to become violent psychopaths.
Right, and the idea is, can we prevent that?
There was already something wrong in their frontal lobe. So if you have a normal frontal lobe, you go through childhood being abused, maybe you grow up normal. If you have this abnormality in your frontal lobe, you get abused, you become a psychopath. The seeds are already there. And I think that's the same argument for this sort of thing. If you watch a violent movie and you shoot up a school, that was already in you. And something was going to let it out.
Right. Yeah, but is the solution to remove all the triggers?
No. Because that wouldn't work. There's always going to be a trigger.
And, I'm fine with the idea of, like, putting trigger warnings before things, but we live in a society now where we blame the triggers for the outcome a lot of times. I think
things do need trigger warnings in the sense that there are people that have suffered trauma and maybe they don't want to read something about the trauma they've dealt with.
Yeah. I think in some cases, like, and you get the more right side people that make fun of it. They're like, oh, we gotta have a trigger warning for it.
But you got ratings on movies.
Yeah, and I agree. I think there's some things like we do go a little too extreme, but it's
better to go to extremes.
Yeah, it's kind of just we're not saying you can't look at that content. I mean, it's the same people that bitch about having to press 1 for English on the phone.
I'm not saying
thing,
don't say the thing. I'm saying maybe mention you're gonna say the thing.
Yeah, just, little heads up so, the rape victim in the room can maybe leave before you tell your rape joke.
Like we did the Strictly Sickly. We did the Strictly episode, Strictly Sickly episode about assisted death, assisted suicide. And we put a trigger warning because I don't want somebody who has suicidal ideations watching that and then deciding to off themselves.
Yeah, because then all of a sudden then we're in the argument. Are we now liable for that person's
And even if I'm not liable to society, I would feel liable for myself.
You feel horrible. Also, people that have had suicides in their family or whatever may not be really wanting to hear a conversation about suicide.
Yeah, Chris says, I've got OCD. Certain images and ideas will get stuck in a loop in my head, and it would be nice to know before. Yeah, I have that same. Mine's more of a counting OCD thing, but certain things it'll spin me up, and it's not that I'm being a wuss about it. It's that my brain literally can't let it go. It becomes an obsessive thought pattern, and I'd like to avoid that if I can. So I can function in society with the normies. What you looking at?
I'm looking at the facts of the Momo thing. So, you'll talk to several people. They'll say, well, so-and-so, in this place, there is a linked death or whatever. This document's directly contradicting that. So there are specific ones that people are citing. So the one in Argentina, despite several media reports, so this is like in mainstream news. So despite several media reports tentatively establishing a relationship between the Momo challenge and the suicide of a 12-year-old girl from a place in Argentina, no link has been confirmed by authorities. Man, that is, dude, if you can say that, I'll give you $10 right now.
Where is it?
Under where it says Argentina, the name of the town, Inigo or something.
In Genero, Moshwitz. Give me $10.
Moshwitz?
Totally.
I don't think that's right.
Moshwitz.
Brazil authorities in Brazil have not confirmed any case linked to the Momo Challenge. National Safe Net nonprofit organization has been approached by concerned parents and warned that there's only a variety of schemes to extort money and information from people. Oh, yeah. So that's another part of it, too, is they're saying that eventually, if you follow it long enough, they'll try to, like, extort money from you or whatever. So in other countries, it may not be aimed at the U.S.
It's a dude from Nigeria that wants $5,000. It's the same urban legend. It's
Canada, Quebec, local police forces. Nothing in Canada. Colombia, police have not confirmed. Nothing in Colombia. Europe, in France, State Department was reviewing the situation daily. Complaint was filed by a father whose son committed suicide, but it was not confirmed. Germany, Luxembourg. It's all the same thing. Yeah, there have been suicides or whatever, and like the parent has complained or whatever, but it's just the thing that they saw on the internet.
It's back to anti-vaxxers. My kid got this. It's a vaccine injury. Literally anything.
Oh, here we've been talking about the sculpture or whatever. A photograph of a sculpture of an ubami produced, I'm not sure what an ubami is. Oh, I mean, obviously I am because I know what it looks like. But a sculpture of an ubami produced by Japanese artist Kusaki Isaiwa at special effects firm Link Factory was popularly used to depict Momo. The firm denies any involvement with the hoax. The sculpture has bulging eyes and a beak-like mouth. Pictures of the sculpture were first posted online in 2016, so that is pretty old.
What is it?
Ubame. Ubume. You can look up what that is. I'm curious if it's got some kind of link to the name or something like that. The remainder of the sculpture, not always shown by Momo accounts or media, consists of a small, bald, chicken-like body with avian feet and human breasts. Early news reports stating the image was of sculpture by Japanese artist Moyadi Hayashi turned out to be incorrect. Hayashi indicated that it is not her piece, and the internet users identified Ayasawa as the correct source. Ayasawa confirmed in March 2019 that the sculpture had been thrown away in 2018 after its material, rubber, and natural oils had rotted away. Oh, so he didn't throw it away. He said, I did read something, and maybe that's more urban legend, but I glanced at something. I was reading
an article where he had said, I have thrown it away. Basically, you can tell everybody it's gone.
I read something that said, like, he regretted it or whatever, but, you know, that's kind of, I don't know.
Ubami are a type of supernatural entity, or yokai. They're Japanese in origin, and in Western terms can be mostly closely related to the idea of ghosts. Throughout folk stories and literature, the identity and appearance of Ubami varies. However, she is most commonly depicted as a spirit of a woman who has died during childbirth. Passerbys will see her as a normal-looking woman carrying a baby. She will typically try and give the passerby her child, then disappear. When the person goes to look at the child in their arms, they will discover it's only a bundle of leaves or a large rock.
Or like a harpy, creepy bird lady. Yeah, that's what
Japanese ghosts are the most freaking terrifying.
Kat said she saw a video of people playing a Peppa Pig video.
With Momo cut in.
And Momo cut in.
But that's the thing.
I'm almost sure it's doctored, and I would love for somebody to produce a link to the video.
This is a thing I have seen people do on YouTube, is cut in weird crap to kid videos. I'm not saying Momo. Yeah. Don't hate on me, but I get anti-vaxxers. I'm not one, but I have a kid that gets reactions from them. One time it made him swell up so you could. People have vaccine reactions.
Yeah,
that is a thing that happens.
But also, so like, so just
side
note on the anti-vaxxing. So there are people that can't.
You're allergic to allergy shots, right?
Yeah, I'm allergic to the actual allergy, the preservatives.
The preservative.
Yeah. There are people that can't have allergy shots for legitimate medical reasons. There are people that do have reactions, side effects to vaccines.
Eggs is a thing in some vaccines that people are allergic to, like casein.
But there's only in really extreme cases can you not get the vaccine. In most cases, even if you're having like side effects or whatever to it, you can still get, like, he's swelled up, but he still survived,
what
and it's fine.
What I don't get is people whose children have never had such a reaction and still refuse.
Well, didn't you get your teeters checked? Teeter.
But yeah, adults should get their titers checked in.
Adults should,
to get revaccinated.
But that one chick was just blasting me. She's like, well, you should get it checked because you might already have immunity. Not if I haven't been exposed to it, or, you know, my mom wasn't getting the vaccine.
German measles while she was pregnant? No, you're not immune.
Yeah, it's and she's like, well, I got my titers tested and it said blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, you're still an idiot. Like, and I felt really bad because at first I was trying to defend her because she has autoimmune diseases.
Stop arguing with people. It never works.
Well, she's like, well, I have autoimmune disease. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. You can't. Then your life depends on the fact that the rest of us get vaccines.
I'm going to punch the next person that tells me I have RA because of vaccines. I've heard that like 10 times over the past couple weeks. And the next person I'm going to find and hit.
Unless they can produce a slide that actually shows, you know, the celluloid growth of the disease after, as the vaccines happen.
But with the Momo thing, I think if there are videos with that spliced into it, I think that's come to fruition since the thing started. Now, I'm not saying that's not a thing that's happening.
Like, I could do it right after this video, like, if I want, so that when I'm sitting here arguing with somebody, oh, no, it is a real thing. It's just to make a point. It's, okay, so now there might actually be a few rogue videos.
If you do have little kids and you're letting them watch YouTube videos, probably watch some of them the whole way through because people put some weird crap in them.
Yeah. Or just to educate your kid.
Some kids are too little.
I don't know. Andrew is pretty little.
I'm talking about 3 or 4-year-olds.
Even when he was... I knew him when he was a 4-year-old, and he was pretty fine with
kids have different developmental ages.
I don't know. Casually watch it with your kid is what you don't have to sit there and pay attention to every minute of SpongeBob.
Look over every now and then. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Or do what I do and track them by your YouTube and watch the stuff they've been watching and monitor their comments.
They're about to get rid of comments on YouTube.
Probably good.
Yeah.
Probably good. The worst assholes on the planet live on YouTube.
It is true.
My nastiest internet comments are all on YouTube.
I don't know. Do you really think that's good? In the same way that we disagree, because I agree with you. I agree. I agree with you. I disagree with the idea of keeping your kids from the internet and things like that. Do you think that's good to take the comments off? Because so Rotten Tomatoes, because of the backlash with the Captain Marvel movie, no longer allows user ratings before the movies come out.
Well, why would they need user ratings before the movie comes out?
Yeah, I know. It's like a duh. It's like a duh moment.
A bunch of angry dudes went on and griped about it.
Incels, yeah. It's exactly whether they want to admit that's what they are or not. That's what in the same thing happened with Wonder Woman and all that.
Weaponize their status.
Yeah.
I've been to incel boards. They do this. They'll post, hey, this movie's coming out. Who wants to get on and make all these nasty comments? They rally for these things.
Okay, I'm going to open up this link that Kat sent me. This better not have a virus. By the way, computer viruses are also an urban legend. A lot of people don't realize that.
Really? Because someone jacked all the stuff off my laptop.
So, yeah, but that wasn't a virus.
No, that was someone hacked it.
That's somebody hacked it and it's malware. So here's the deal. A lot of people are like, oh, you got to get a virus protector so you don't get the viruses because everybody's trying to get into your computer. Nobody wants in your computer, Karen. No one cares. No one cares about your pot roast recipe. No one wants your bank account info off your computer because they can just get it off
from the bank.
Yeah, it's so easy to get that the bank just insures all your money and then just issues you another card and gives you your money back because they know there's no way they can protect it. It's ridiculous. You can get some malware, you can get some stuff, but it's not like
they wanted 50 bitcoins to fix my computer. Do you know what the math on that is?
Yeah, it's like $5,000.
I know.
Well, not anymore. Bitcoin's like way down. You might be able to.
Buy my stories back.
You might be able to get your stuff for $50.
I had written all my stories and not saved them, and it's sad.
Content not found.
I'll get on YouTube after this and look and see.
Sorry, Kat, your content is not available.
If she did find a video with that cut into it, I'm betting Facebook would have pulled it.
Back to previous page, maybe. I don't know. That's nuts. I'm going to close that. I do find that ironic, though. She's like, here's a link. It's not a real link.
Yeah, certain channels are more reliable. Yeah, the stuff I found with the creepy kid videos is almost all from the same sorts of channels. The thing about getting rid of YouTube comments, I know people can already shut down commenting on their videos.
Yeah, like as a content provider, you can choose whether to enable comments or not.
Emilio says, I think that if Netflix can do a kids section, YouTube does have a kids section.
Yep. So does Netflix.
To get past the flaggers for the kids section, what they'll do is they'll make the first little bit of the video a palatable kids video, and then they'll start putting the weird shit in.
They'll put it in at odd time signatures to it, like an hour and 1 second.
It's real weird, but it's not super common, but it is a thing that happens.
Yeah. And that's also the thing too that people forget is like it's not on the. And I'm happy for content providers that do it. It's not on the content provider to censor it for us. And we've got we grew up in the age of we had network TV, so we're used to it. Them just not the FCC not having stuff in there. And cable does it to an extent. And Netflix is completely uncensored, but they have like a kids section or whatever. YouTube, same way.
But let me tell you, even though Netflix has a kids section, my kids can just put it on adult.
Yeah. But what I was going to say is we put it on the content provider to censor it for our kids for us. But the thing is every single device that you use, every single service that you're using has parental locks on it. It's really up to us is the adult to say, no, I don't want them to watch anything over a T rating. And you go in and you figure out how to do it, and you lock the device so that they can't get to that content.
Meanwhile, I'm just like Game of Thrones and my 12-year-old. Sure.
Yeah, my parents.
Except I won't let their watch.
I always say my parents never censored what I watch. They did. There was some attention paid, and I was told I couldn't watch things for a little while, but it was never real super strict, and it was never. I don't know.
Keelan's still trying to get me to let her watch Game of Thrones, and I joke about letting her, but I don't know. There's some stuff in that, man.
What is in there? First off, what is in there, and what do you think it's going to do?
Just swinging wieners.
So what? Dude, have you seen the text she gets from that brat that we were talking about?
He has not sent any nude pics.
She has seen some wieners.
Oh, no, she doesn't click on them. She brings them to me.
She probably...
Oh, I'm sure she has.
I just bought her a laptop. She's probably on Pornhub like half the day.
Gross, please no.
But
what she does with the wiener pics is the same thing I told her to do, is to shame them.
Oh, she sent another link. Hold on. We're going to play this game now.
Video may be sensitive to some people. Oh, that's pretty damn creepy.
Alrighty. See, I really feel like this is made after the fact. But you know what?
Does it have a date stamp?
Let's see.
Because Momo started in early 2018.
I'll find it in a minute, but I want to play before it gets like taken down. I'll play it for the peeps.
Trigger warning.
Trigger warning. We're about to show you the only Momo video that freaking exists on the planet.
Props to Cat.
Vanilla. Momo again.
That shit's horrifying.
That was a neat trick, huh, kids? Did you do everything Momo said to do last time? Well, I need another favor. But don't worry, it's real easy, kids. Go find the sharpest toy you can find. Your dad may have one in the garage, or just check Mom's kitchen for a knife. When you found the fun, sharp toy, hold the handle and press the sharp end down really hard on your wrists here, and drag it as hard as you can to here. If it hurts, don't stop. You have to be brave for Momo. If you did it right, there should be lots of red stuff coming out.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and pause it because I don't want YouTube to shut down this video. Stream too much of that, and all of a sudden, this podcast didn't exist anymore. Okay, so that's pretty creepy. But okay, so hold on.
We'll find the timestamp on that.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do. Hold on, let me turn this off real quick. Hey, Sarah, you talk for a minute while I try to research this video.
What am I talking about?
I don't know.
I am betting that people are making videos like this now to capitalize on it.
So one thing I noticed about that is it starts with, did you complete the last challenge sort of thing. So it's referencing something which would be really hard. It would have to be generic. And notice it gets, like everything they're talking about, it gets straight to the point about the suicide thing. There's nothing else in there. And it's only a couple of seconds into that video. Yeah. Now, that's not to say that somebody didn't splice it out, but it really seems manufactured.
Well, that would get flagged.
Yeah,
that would be immediately pulled. But I'm
trying to.
If you're interested, there is a conspiracy on. I found it on Reddit called Elsagate, and that's the one I'm talking about with the weird kid videos. Whoa, that person's page is pornographic in nature. I'm glad that wasn't on the screen.
It doesn't seem like a really reputable source.
Crap.
Well, really, I think. Okay, so. Here's the deal. This guy's, I think, this Michael J. guy that posted this, he's doing the same thing we're doing. He's using the Momo thing as clickbait. He wants a bunch of views or whatever. I mean, that's why.
What do some of the comments say? Is there anything besides tags?
For all you dumbass people out there, it's fake, and the more you share it thinking it's real, you're the one spreading it around. Yeah, which is why I wanted to show it for y'all, but that's why I stopped it, because there's no point. How has this not been banned yet? What's wrong with people?
And then it's just a bunch of tags.
It's a bunch of people like sharing it, like, oh, freaking out. But a lot of the comments are like, oh, it's fake. It's not a real.
Yeah, because as a side note, I asked my kids. So they came home. I was like, you know what, Mama? They both had no effing clue. They're like, what are you talking about?
This was posted last Thursday.
Ah, okay.
That's why I couldn't find a date, because it just does that thing where it says, oh, last Thursday.
I'm used to YouTube where it has the upload date. Of course, that doesn't mean that's the date of the thing that happened, but
Eric sent
a Momo thing.
I found the Momo thing. It's the same thing,
okay.
but it's, notice the tag that's on it too. Yeah, somebody's actually.
So I'm betting I bet there's going to be a wash of these videos.
Yeah, you're going to see a bunch of them. And I bet a few of them are different. Thanks for that link, Kat. I'm still disputing whether or not that's like the original thing that started it. But yeah, but that's what we were saying, is like life imitates art.
Oh yeah, Chris mentioned Elsagate. Dude, so I found that because I was reading creepypastas and someone wrote a story like they were working with the people who manufacture those Elsagate videos, and I saw a link below it that said this is a real thing, and I clicked on it and it went to one of those videos, and it's not anything overtly gross. But
yeah, it toes the line.
It's gross.
It just feels kind of wrong.
Like the Ring video. Like when the Ring came out, it had that stupid video at the beginning. It's not anything that's actually bad. It's just sort of vaguely wrong.
Well, it feels like that's the problem, is even if it's nothing wrong, it feels like an invasion of like your personal space and privacy. Because what you're looking at something that you know is intended for your kids, that in the back of your head you're like, oh yeah, they can just watch that, and then you see something in there that's not supposed to be in there, and so it plants that idea in your head that this video could have been anything. This could have been sex, this could have been violence, this could have been literally anything in there, and that's what makes you, it doesn't matter what the content is, you feel uneasy about it because you don't know, because you know that content shouldn't be there.
Emilio mentioned the link for that. Did it not show up as a link for y'all for reporting purposes? That's interesting. Does if someone posts a link on there, does it not show up for the comments?
I don't know. Well, I mean,
but Hades talking about how you can make a list of videos for your kid. Yeah, you have to go in and like set up a view list. I did that with Andrew when he was.
Well, I think one of the problems is we're coming out of one of the generations where the parents are not as technologically savvy as the kids, and honestly, I think that's going to be a trend going forward.
My parents could have tried to put a parental lock on our computer.
We talked about the nanny thing on the internet. It takes 5 minutes to get around that. As soon as I got into computers for 10 minutes, I was more advanced at computers than my parents were.
I'm not even good at compute. Like, that's not my thing, but I could still do things my parents couldn't.
Right, and that's exactly what I'm talking about. It's not because our parents were stupid or that we're stupid and we don't know how to function with technology. It's that our kids grow up with it and they're more adept at it. Like, so I'm really good, like, I'm a computer programmer. I can do a lot of really interesting things, but I struggle to operate my Xbox half the time because they keep updating the freaking, the interface or whatever, and I can't do it. And then when your kid and Zachary come over, they can just do it. And it's like, dude, not only am I like intelligent, but I am a gamer. Like, I know how to operate this thing.
You want another really embarrassing one? I had the first PlayStation that came. I was on that. I wanted a PlayStation. I got every new PlayStation. The last one we bought, I had to have Andrew turn it on for me. The damn power button, couldn't find it.
Yeah, because it's like flush.
Like, Andrew, how do you turn this on? He came up, he like ran his finger across the front. I was like, what is this? This is some sort of hell. I remember my grandma calling and being like, how do you program the VCR? Like,
yeah, and all of a sudden you feel like that.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
this is my life now.
I'm right there with you. Okay, so we're coming up to, or is it?
Like when I get on one of those spam finger family songs.
Not a blue link. Can't click it to go to. Oh, it shows up as a link for me.
Oh yeah, those creepy finger family songs. I caught Andrew watching one of those the other day. I was like, please don't. That is horrifying.
Yeah, it might be because you watch via phone, Amelia, because I'm on a computer.
The Elsa Gates.
What are you talking about?
There's these songs on this, like, where is blah blah, where, and they sing, and they like, but it's weird. It's like two hands and they sing. It's not, like she said, it's not overtly weird. It's just kind of thrown off.
It's just strange.
But the Elsa Gate stuff is beyond. I watched some of those videos and they made me feel a little gross. That did not like that. On the other hand, maybe people weren't intentionally making anything malicious. Maybe they're just effing weird. There's also been parents that have, gotten in trouble for using their kids in YouTube videos, basically what amounts to abuse, pranking them in such severe ways that their kids end up freaking traumatized for clicks.
What are some other urban legends you can think of? There's obviously
two conflicting ones. There's the guy in the back seat of the car. The girl's driving home. The guy behind her flashes the brights, and there's the guy standing over that. Then there's the other urban legend where people are flashing their brights at you while they're coming at you.
I read that one today. So that's an interesting story too. And I was reading how that first got started. So what the urban legend is like, what you're supposed to do when you see somebody else without their lights on the road, you're supposed to flash them to let them know. And the urban legend is that as a gang initiation, gangs would drive around with their lights off, and if you flash them, that meant they would basically chase you down and murder you. And this got so prevalent as like a rumor that it got all the way up to Canada, and the Prime Minister was issuing out public statements about it. But there's absolutely no instance of it.
It's just too I was thinking about it because they're conflicting. And one of them, the dude's flashing his brights at you to save your ass. And the other, the people flashing their brights at you are trying to kill you. So how do you know? Is it a killer in the backseat, or are they trying to murder you?
Interesting. I wonder if both of those came out at the same time to keep you guessing. To counteract each other. It's just like, oh, crap, what do I do?
So now someone flashes their brights at me. I'm like, do I check my headlights? Do I check my back seat? What do I do? Am I about to be murdered? I don't know.
I just try to always assume that I'm about to be murdered.
I always check the back seat of my car before I get in. Always.
That's kind of why I like having the Mustang now, because nobody could possibly fit back there to do anything.
The most horrifying one my mom told me. She was working at JPS and she was doing night shifts, and I would have to go with her sometimes. So I'm like 8 or 9. And it's during like summer break, and we're walking to the car, and she tells me that someone, and my mom knows I like horror stuff. She tells me that someone has been hiding under cars and cutting people's Achilles tendons and then robbing them.
That was happening.
Even now, I can't go through a parking lot. Like, I'll park away from everyone else.
So that was actually happening a few months. Okay, so Casey works at the mall that was happening at. Is Casey watching? If you are, you need to talk about it. There's a guy who's hiding under people's cars and just murdering them in the parking lot that way.
But yeah, she told me that we were walking out the car at JPS, and there was like the nurses' parking lot, and at the time it was in this area of nothing, and I'm like, this is awful. I'm going to die. I don't know. That's another thing that wasn't on one of those urban legend shows or movies or something.
So I brought it up earlier. I think it bears mentioning. If you have Netflix, look up a documentary called Killer Legends.
There's actually a whole Cropsey documentary.
Yeah. They did the Cropsey one later that expands on it. But almost all of these that we talked about are on there, plus Cropsey. Cropsey's a really interesting one. I think we should do a separate show just on that particular case, because that's one where there was a thing, and then there was an urban legend, and then there was a thing, and it's one of the rare instances where urban legend turned to reality, and there was a big debacle with it. It was really good, and it spawned it. But if you guys get a chance this weekend, like you have nothing to do, go check out that Killer Legends, and then if you have time, look up the Cropsey documentary, which I don't think that's on Netflix anymore.
I think it's on
I think it's on Amazon. It's a little more expensive. And then when we do the episode on Cropsey, there will be a little more
talking about
discussion.
the JPS. You had to walk before they built the new ER at JPS. There was an old, it was an abandoned orphanage, and there was like a Jewish cemetery next to it. And the nurses' parking lot, you had to walk past that building to the nurses' parking lot when my mom worked in the ER, and it was the most horrifying walk. And of course, there's no one else out there. You can ask the security guard to watch you, but it's JPS. He's busy.
You know what's so nuts? So we just recently watched. We were watching My Friend Dahmer, and you were talking about. Maybe were we talking about Dahmer or were we talking about Bundy, where he would walk her to her car every night?
Bundy worked at a suicide hotline.
Yes.
And the lady that worked the phone next to him, she was scared a serial killer was going to get her. So she had Ted Bundy walk her to her damn car every night.
Right.
She thought he was a nice guy. He never killed her.
He was a really nice guy.
Kept her safe. Kept her perfectly safe. Because, a serial killer tries to kill her, and they're screwed.
The best way to keep a serial killer from killing you
is by having a pet serial killer?
Is have a pet serial killer. Because he won't want any other... Because it's always a he. Because
not true.
Female serial killers don't get caught. So we can't prove that they're out there at all. Because y'all are good.
They do get caught sometimes. Generally, they work in a hospital or a nursing home.
Where people are just expected to die. Because I don't know why...
Angels of mercy.
So intelligent. I don't know why guys can't figure it out. Like, if I keep leaving dead bodies everywhere, I don't know how they're going to find me.
Ted Bundy had a freaking body, farm on the side of a mountain.
I like the... I can't think of it. He lived on the... He lived in this big mansion or whatever, and they found all those remains out in the wood, like Foxcatcher. I'll think of it later.
I know Chris says, serial killers don't kill people they see every day. Usually their first kill or their last kill is the person originally intended, like with Kemper, his mom.
And that's always the person that gets you caught, too.
Yeah.
It's either your first one or your last one.
Yeah, it's the intended victim, though. Like, they kill someone that looks like their mom once a week. Eventually they kill their mom, and they're like, oh, that's all I needed. I'm fixed now.
I love what Ed Kemper said about, he's taking...
I tried to stick her vocal cords in the garbage disposal. They kept popping back out, and I thought, this is fitting. Dude.
I thought that would finally shut that bitch up.
Oh, my God, he's so sick.
Women prey on the sick and the weak. Not all of them were angels.
No.
Zodiac told police about his kills and never got caught. And they think he might have stopped because
he got caught
for something else.
He just didn't get caught for that.
Yeah, they think he probably died in jail because you don't just stop.
And most of them get pulled over or stopped for other things.
Ted Bundy, every time he got busted, it was for driving violation. Every tail light being out.
Got pulled over with a body in his trunk once and got just all these crazies. I love it.
I like when Ted Bundy escaped from prison. Went down to Florida, murdered a bunch of people. They caught him. They didn't know who he was for 2 weeks because he wouldn't relinquish his identity.
Emilio, Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz's Zodiac. 2 years ago, when we stood up and said what we were thankful for at my family's Thanksgiving, I said the Z in Ted Cruz's name.
That's awesome.
The one nurse killed only. A lot of them kill. A lot of them kill their own kids, women.
All right. Well, that's our show. It was brought to you today by Ted Cruz and Momo. But if you guys find any actual links or whatever, post them up, I guess, if you want to. But all that stuff, it's going to be aftermarket manufactured. And like I said before, we're not telling you don't talk to your kids about weird
Definitely
shit
tell your
on the
kid
internet.
There are creeps on the internet.
Yeah, but I don't know. Just don't perpetuate the panic sort of thing. Just kind of sit back, enjoy it like we're doing, Because I'm curious if we find out it ends up being like a viral marketing thing, or if it's just the next Tide Pod challenge. And we talked about that earlier. By the way, that never happened. Like there's still
a one dude ate a Tide Pod on YouTube.
Yeah, and I think one guy vaped one.
Yeah, something like that.
But that's life imitating the urban legend, not the other way around sort of thing.
But the thing is, they do look like candy.
I'm sure they taste delicious.
I bet they taste awful.
I've got some Tide Pods in there.
We
should try it.
Smell amazing.
All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Y'all have an excellent weekend.